We have made it to the semifinals of the Tachyon Draft League, and your Ontario place Serene Grace are still undefeated. And this week we are running it back against squigstudios and his very threatening Trick Room team. Last week we had a pretty good run. We don't have a lot of room for improvement, but we certainly have a couple of things that we could have done better. Number one is that Murkrow and Gholdengo were basically useless last week, so I'm going to be bringing something else. And number two is that they've seen all of my strategies for all of the weeks, so I definitely need to come up with something very new for this week. And so the threats this week are Alolan Ninetales and different Terra types that they could use to resist my hits. Alolan Ninetales is threatening because if Alolan Ninetales has Ability Shield, they can get the snow up and brings all of their ice types to plus 50% defense, which is going to be really problematic because a lot of my calculations last week were so that I could just barely kill with Slaking or with Dondozo. So I needed to change up my strategy this week to account for Aurora Veil and to account for the snow defense boosts. They also could have different Terra types, so they could bring Terra types that are going to resist my normal hits from Slaking. So I'm expecting a lot more Terras to something like Steel. They also know that because last week I ran a slow Weezing to underspeed in Trick Room, they might just run faster modes now so that they can outspeed my Weezing outside of Trick Room. Or they could just run a completely fast mode with a fast Armarouge and a fast Ninetales, and another fast threat like maybe Sandslash, and deal with me that way. The good thing is that compared to last week, I have a bit more room for improvement. So I had Murkrow and Gholdengo last week, which actively didn't really do anything. So I have 2 slots that I can improve, and then I could improve one of my move slots on Dondozo because last week I brought Sleep Talk, which I didn't think was very helpful. So I have another move that I can use this time. For Slaking and Weezing, there's not a ton of room for improvement, but I still thought that instead of bringing Life Orb, I could bring Assault Vest so that I could survive more of the special hits, because last week there was a big risk of Slaking just getting taken out by Expanding Forces, so I wanted to avoid that. And so here's the team that I came up with for this week. Overall, it's the same plan as last week, so my initial plan is to lead Weezing and Slaking, and then go into Dondozo and Tatsugiri in game 1 and see what their game plan is. I have the option this time to switch into Coalossal and Duosion if they have a hard Trick Room mode that I need to counter. I also have very different modes where I can lead potentially Duosion and Slaking and have Coalossal and Dondozo in the back. I can also lead Weezing and Slaking and leave Dondozo behind if they go for a totally different mode. I can also leave Tatsugiri behind if they're going for a mode where I think Tatsugiri is going to be a huge liability, and I can get more damage in with Duosion with Expanding Force. Starting out with Weezing, it's very similar to last week's, where I'm running a Focus Sash so that I can live 1 hit from Expanding Force or 1 hit from a ground attack. The main difference this time is I'm running Strange Steam instead of Dark Pulse. Strange Steam is really good because I needed a way to kill Crabominable through the snow defense boost. And Slaking wouldn't be able to do that by itself. So Strange Steam and a Brick Break will take out the Aurora Veil and then kill Crabominable because it's a special attack. I'm also running max special attack this time because, to be honest, last week's spread was kind of a mistake. I was only going to live 1 special hit and I had a sash anyway, so I didn't need any of that bulk. I can invest it all into special attack this week to give me the ability to kill that crab. And then instead of going really slow, I went 96 speed so that I can outspeed a modest, no investment Armarouge. So it gives me some options, it gives me some better speed, and I do more damage with this Weezing. For Slaking, instead of a Life Orb this time, I'm bringing Assault Vest, because this really lets me survive more hits from Expanding Force and more hits from potentially Armarouge. The main reason for this is because with my assumption that they're going to bring Snow and Aurora Veil, my Life Orb hits are already going to be missing key kills on Indeedee and Ninetales and Armarouge and Hatterene. I would normally have been able to get the kills on them with a knockoff or with a hard press into Hatterene, or with a hard press into Ninetales, but with the Snow defense boost and the Aurora Veil, and if they tear out of it, then I wouldn't be able to get the kill, so there's no point running a Life Orb if I'm not going to be getting the one-shots. I also am not running Terra Ghost this time, because my concern is about knockoffs from Crabominable. So my thought was, if they run Ninetales and Crabominable with Ninetales and Ability Shield in the lead, then Crabominable becomes a really threatening lead Pokemon, because he has the option of going close combat into me to do really good damage, actually to guarantee a kill on me with the close combat with Crabominable. And then if he sees I have the Terror to Ghost, he can just safely go for knockoff, and at worst, it'll do really good damage and take my item off. And at best, it'll kill me with my Terra if I Terra to Ghost. So I went with Terra Fairy this week to give me resistance against fighting and dark, and to make me neutral against all the other real threats. That was basically the same thing as what Ghost was doing, except instead of being taking no damage from fighting, I'm just taking resisted damage, which is kind of good enough. If I'm terroring with Slaking, I'm only doing it because I want to survive, specifically against Crabominable. So I changed my Terror type this time. Otherwise, the set is the same as last week. I need Brick Break now for sure, because I really expect there to be Aurora Veils. And otherwise, I changed my spreads, so I have a lot of special bulk. I have still just enough attack to at least guarantee the one-shots on the things I can one-shot, and to guarantee two-shots on the things that I can two-shot. I have a small chance to survive close combat from a Crabominable without Life Orb because of my specific defensive spread. But this week, other than my special defense, I'm quite a bit less defensive compared to last time, because I had to invest a tiny bit more in speed because I wanted to be able to outspeed both the modest max Armarouge and the no investment Ninetales. For Dondozo and Tatsugiri, this week my spread is adamant because I needed the extra attack to be able to hit through Aurora Veil hits. I also gave it Rain Dance over Sleep Talk because Sleep Talk was there as a filler move in case I got hit with a Sing. Rain Dance this week is really helpful because I need to use it to turn off Snow so that they don't have the Snow defense boost. It also means that things like Blizzard can miss, and it powers up my water attacks. So it's sort of similar to using Wave Crash twice, except I'm also turning off some of their benefits of having Snow. Some examples are Wave Crash would normally be a 2-hit KO in Snow against Crab with Aurora Veil, but with Rain, then my 2-hit KO just turns into a 1-hit KO. So it's basically like using Wave Crash twice. And similarly, if Ninetales or Hat Terra out of their weakness to Steel into something that resists Steel like Water, Rain Dance powers up my water attack so that the Wave Crash turns into a 2-hit KO instead of being, something like a 3-hit KO. I needed to be adamant this time to be able to pick up Hatterene with Heavy Slam, because last week I was not guaranteeing that, so I wanted to be able to guarantee it this time, especially through an Aurora Veil. And then I also wanted a bit more speed compared to last week. Last week I had basically no speed investment, but this time I needed speed investment so that I could outspeed Armarouge, so with the same speed as Slaking when it has Commander up. I take a little bit more damage. I take probably 4% more damage per hit, but it's really important, and it's especially important because Armarouge is the only source of clear smog that they have. So I wanted to be able to outspeed the modest Armarouge, and be able to take the kill before they can clear smog it off. I still have Terra Steel, and that's mainly so I can resist Expanding Force hits and other psychic attacks, but it's also so that I can potentially be immune to clear smog, which would be really helpful. I went back and forth between Unaware and Water Veil, but still, I don't think that they're going to be burning me. I think that, if anything, it's going to be more likely that they'll have download on Porygon. So I brought Unaware for that because I thought it was pretty unlikely that they would be burning me. I also reduced my HP a little bit because last time I needed it just for the Figgy Berry thing, but because I can't have enough bulk on this guy anyway, because I needed to invest in speed, the Figgy Berry thing wasn't going to be working anymore. I wouldn't be able to survive a hit from Expanding Force with Life Orb from Hatterene in Psychic Terrain anyway, after Figgy Berry recovery, no matter what I did. So I just didn't think there was a point anymore. And so I also thought it was a little bit risky to be running Figgy Berry when there's so many attacks that now do more than 25% damage into me. So I ran Citrus for some more reliable recovery instead of Figgy. Last time, Tatsugiri was kind of a liability because I just made it a counter Miracle guy. This time, I think I can get some value out of him with Choice Scarf. So if he ends up popping out and I need to get the last hit on somebody, I might actually be able to do it. So I gave him enough speed to be able to outspeed Ninetales with Choice Scarf, and then I gave him Terra Blast Steel to be able to specifically do damage to Ninetales and Hatterene and their fairies. With Rain, I also am able to kill Armarouge with a water attack. And then if you look at my spread, I gave it a bit more bulk so that I have a good enough chance to survive a Dazzling Gleam hit from Hatterene. So I gave it a little bit more special bulk, and then I wasn't going to be guaranteeing any kills anyway with this set. It's either going to be 2 hits or it's going to be killing something that already has damage in it. So having max special attack didn't make a big difference. So moving on to my new stuff this week, I brought Duosion and Coalossal as an alternate Trick Room mode in case their Trick Room mode was extra threatening. The great thing about these two is that they underspeed everything that they have in Trick Room except for Jigglypuff. Their Trick Room mode is not that slow, whereas I have the slowest Trick Room mode here. I've always wanted to bring Duosion, but I could never justify it. And this week, when I'm going up against the hardest Trick Room mode, and that they're going to set up Psychic Terrain for me, potentially, I thought this was a time that Duosion might actually be able to shine. I had initially been trying to get a way to get Skill Swap to work, but it just wasn't ever working, and I'm glad I was able to test this a little bit. Under Trick Room, Slaking is already so slow, so Skill Swapping it just means that I can make a move, but I'm going to take 2 hits to get an attack in anyway, so I don't need to keep slacking in under Trick Room. And outside of Trick Room, I need to be doing this on turn 1, and then Duosion's going to have Truant, and then I have to switch Duosion out. So it just wasn't working. It wasn't worth it. I lost too much tempo trying to go for Skill Swap. So instead, I'm just running a bunch of attacking moves and Helping Hand and Trick Room. I have Trick Room in case I need to be the one to set it up, in case they're going for a fast mode. I have Expanding Force so that I do really good damage in Psychic Terrain if they set it up for me. For example, with Expanding Force, I can just kill Crabominable even without Psychic Terrain. I had Shadow Ball specifically for Armarouge as my other damaging move, and then I set him up with really good special bulk so that I can take a lot of hits when I'm in under Trick Room, so that my main damaging move is going to be hitting them with Expanding Force against double targets, and then I can tank a bunch because I have Eviolite, and then I can kind of do it again. I was going back and forth between Magikarp and Regenerator, and I went with Magikarp just in case there was something I was missing. I didn't think I was going to be switching this guy out very much, and I gave Duosion min speed, but I didn't want to give him absolutely minimum speed with a negative speed nature, because this is still slow enough to underspeed all of their guys instead, except for Jigglypuff. and I wanted to have slightly lower attack in case they had something like Foul Play. Coalossal is my real X factor this week because with Curse, now I underspeed really everything, including Jigglypuff. And I also, after a Curse, have a move that can OHKO every single one of their guys. Alright, so getting into the games this week, he brought pretty much exactly what I thought he would. He did bring Alolan Sandslash instead of Porygon, but the rest of his team was exactly as I thought. I thought he would be leading Ninetales and having Snow up, but as we see from what happened, he's just leading Indeedee, and he's leading Hatterene. Something a little bit weird happened this time because he forgot to have Terra types set up, but we got them before the battle, and it wasn't a big deal. Now, for my first move here, ignore that I know that he Terra to fighting, but for my first move here, I was scrambling a little bit because I knew that I have prep for an Indeedee Hatterene lead, and eventually I figured it out that the plan was to double into Hatterene regardless of what Indeedee is doing, because if Indeedee has Focus Sash and Follow Me, then Hatterene's going to get Trick Room set up anyway. But if he doesn't go Follow Me, then I guarantee take out Hatterene, and Hatterene's the bigger damage dealer anyway. And so looking at his Terra types, he Terras to fighting, so that I know I'm safe to go for my bigger damage moves. And luckily he actually protects on the first turn, so I basically just get a free turn where I do Double Edge into Hatterene. It's very surprising actually that Hatterene lived this. Actually, it's not that surprising that Hatterene lived this Double Edge. And then I do a Sludge Bomb into the Hatterene and take it out. So I get the kill for free here, and then he goes into Sandslash, and I know he doesn't have Terra up anymore. On the next turn, he goes for Iron Head into Weezing. We live that. And then I go for Brick Break because I know he doesn't have Terra anymore, so Brick Break is always going to kill Sandslash, and so I take it out. He surprises me a little bit by going for Trick with the Indeedee. I did think he was going to go for Trick. I also didn't expect the Indeedee to be outspeeding my Weezing because I went for Taunt onto him. I guess I should have expected that because I didn't give Weezing that much speed, and I didn't realize that a neutral Indeedee just outspeeds Weezing. So this Taunt here was a bit of a mistake. I could have gone for a damaging move or something else. But anyway, he gets the Trick off. I taunt him so that he's not doing anything else. He's not doing any Trick Rooms or protecting for the rest of the game. And now I don't have my Assault Vest anymore. I have an Ability Shield. I think that Ability Shield is going to make it so Slaking is going to be loafing around this turn. And regardless of how certain I may have felt, I don't feel certain enough to take a risk on, thinking that Slaking is going to attack for sure. So I really just click a random move with Slaking here. I Terra my Weezing to Dark because my thought is I'm not going to be Terraing my Dondozo anymore. I can't afford to turn it to Steel when Crabominable is out. And so I Terra to Dark, thinking he's going to go for Expanding Force. And I click a random move with Weezing. And so, with Slaking. And Slaking's move comes out, which is really surprising. And I do really good damage into the Indeedee. This Indeedee looks like it's max HP, max defense, bold, because otherwise it would never have survived with this much HP. And so I take a bunch of damage. If I knew that Slaking's move was going to come out, I probably would have targeted Crabominable because it's for sure the bigger threat here, but I don't. And so he gets the Hyper Voice instead of Expanding Force, takes out the Weezing, and then Crabominable takes out Slaking. And so I'm in a bit of trouble here, but I do have Dondozo, and they don't have the ability to set up Trick Room anymore. Dondozo looks like it's going to one-shot the Crabominable, and I'm not under threat from the Indeedee, so I can afford to go for an attack into the Crab and go for Wave Crash here. Because he doesn't have Snow and he doesn't have Aurora Veil, Wave Crash takes out Crabominable with this very strong Adamant Dondozo. And so I take out the Crab. He does Hyper Voice again. I guess his last move is probably Trick Room, so his only attacking move is Hyper Voice. and he does decent damage, but then there's nothing else that he can do, and I get to take him out. Going into game 2, I don't feel the need to change my game plan. Everything worked okay, and I think that I can fight through a trick. Now that I know that it's coming, there's a little bit more that I think I can do. So I just decided to go with the same thing again. If I need to switch to a Coalossal Duosion type plan, I have the option of doing that later. And so he sends out the same bleed with Indeedee to get the Psychic Terrain up, and he sends out the Sandslash. Now I know that Sandslash has Iron Head, and I know that Iron Head doesn't take out Weezing, so I'm not under any big threat here. The only real threat is having Indeedee set up Trick Room. So I decide to go for an attack into Indeedee to try to take it out, and I go for Protect on Weezing because I don't want to take any damage that I don't necessarily need to. My thought is, in the worst case, it's going to be a wash because the Sandslash is going to hit into the Weezing Protect, and then in the best case, I take out Indeedee. And in this case, something a little bit worse than that happens actually, where Sandslash has Brick Break and it goes into my Slaking, but it doesn't do that much damage, and I get to preserve the Weezing, and now he doesn't have Protect, so now I can do a lot of damage into the Indeedee, and then Weezing can do good damage into the now Ghost type Sandslash. Indeedee gets Trick Room up, which is a bit concerning, but I think I can still fight through it. I know that Slaking is going to go down to one hit from one of their guys, so I have to switch him out, and I don't think that they can do that much damage into just a neutral Dondozo. And I also know that because their Indeedee is fast and their Sandslash is fast, that this turn Weezing is going to be the first one to act. So I switch into Dondozo with the thought of potentially just keeping Dondozo in normally so that it can be slow under Trick Room, and I safely can take out Sandslash with a Sledge Bomb. They do some damage into my team, and then they bring out Crabominable, and now I feel like for Dondozo, he could be the first one to act, but it's not really guaranteed. And so I just double Protect here to try to scout out for one of his Protects. I want to go for an attack, but I think that there's a good chance that their Indeedee could Protect, or even that their Crabominable could have Protect, and that would be a bit annoying. And so it's lucky here because I get to block Indeedee's Protect, and now he can't do it next turn. And now is the time when I switch into Tatsugiri, because if he was going to Protect, I thought he was going to do it last turn. And so now I don't think Crabominable has Protect. I can turn my Dondozo into the Commander Dondozo. I luckily also get to avoid a hit from a Gong Shot, so that's just very fortunate. And then he goes for Trick into Dondozo, giving it Ability Shield, which is ultimately, it takes out the Citrus Berry, which stops me from healing a little bit, which is a bit annoying, but not a huge problem overall. And then I know I'm going to take out Crabominable with the Wave Crash, and I do. Next he has Hatterene. There's only one more turn of Trick Room left. I'm glad that I spent some time stalling, and that double Protect helped stall that out. So I have a turn that I can stall out Trick Room here, but I also think that Indeedee has Trick Room and Hatterene has Trick Room here. So this turn, if they think I'm going to stall it out, they could go for Trick Room, and that would be really annoying for me. And so I go for an attack instead of trying to stall out a turn of Trick Room with some safety. I tear to Steel so that I can resist Expanding Force hits, which is very helpful. And so I get to resist the Expanding Force, I get to resist the Hyper Voice, even though it crits me, and then I know I take out Hatterene because he doesn't have Aurora Veil. So I take out Hatterene for free here, and now Trick Room is done. I know I outspeed, and any of my attacks will take him out, so I take him out. And that's the game. Now there's just one more week left in the Tachyon Draft League, and my opponent is the Asheville Turtwigs, piloted by Mist. This was one of the scarier weeks that I played against. I had a game plan. I didn't get to execute it. I was able to just win with Weezing and Slaking. And now that he knows all of my strategies, I need to come up with something very different. The good thing is that I stopped my preparation for this week a little early. I guess the worst thing is that I don't have that much time or mental bandwidth to be doing that much preparation into this anymore. So I have some ideas about what I'm going to be doing, but it's going to be the finals, and I need to bring out whatever I have left from this team. I need to squeeze out whatever value I still can from my team that's been doing really well and try to clutch out the final win here. His team is really, really threatening because Grimmsnarl is extremely tanky, Corviknight is extremely tanky, Rillaboom is extremely tanky, Chandelure does a whole bunch of damage, Sneasler is really fast. He just has a very threatening team. And in his last week, he actually made the Dunsparce work with Hyper Drill, which is actually very scary for my team because I do rely a little bit on stalling and protects and playing around like that. I'm going to have to figure something out. It's the finals, and we'll see how that goes next week. But thanks for watching my run. I've made it as far as it's possible to go, and now let's just see if I can finish out the last week of this Tachyon Draft League.